talk to us, how did you get that opportunity to be part of the assistant director and bringing all that big project to Zimbabwe?
Like I said, I became an assistant director. In fact, on my first movie, 1974, when they recruited me, I was in a play. In fact, I remember Nana Walter Parutsa and Dominic Canaventi. We were in a play, an Arthur Fugate play, Nongogo. When after that, then the director said he wanted me in his movie. When I went to his movie, the next day when I was on set, he noticed that they asked me, the casting person said, look, can you find us a few more people like you who can, articulate? So I recruited my friends. At that time it was Mike Chuma, Hebert Matlaba, and Mute, and so forth. So when I brought them to set, but they were not so much into acting. So when the director gave instructions, they would come to me and ask me, what is he saying? So I would explain to them. Then they would go and they would deliver what the director wanted perfectly. Then the director came to me and said, yeah, I noticed that the guys, when they talk to you, they come back, they give me what I'm looking for. So that's when he said, look, from now on, I'll make you my assistant director. That's how I became an assistant director. 10 years later, I've been on, by that time I had been part of 5, 6, 7 Hollywood movies that had come to the country. And at that time, when I was doing the person who was who came to do the Dambudzo Marichera film, House of Hunger. You can see it, House of Hunger, it's there on the tube. And I was there acting. Also, I was coordinator, production coordinator. That's when I was then told about this project that they wanted to do as part of the fighting of apartheid, the struggle against apartheid. So they said, look, we want to make a film that should actually help conscientize the world about the problem of South Africa. That's when they said they had a project about Steve Biko. So they asked me to meet the journalist who was Donald Woods. He was Steve Biko's friend. Oh, okay. He's the journalist who became friends with Steve Biko. And then Steve Biko was killed. And then Donald Woods had to run away with his family because the apartheid system wanted to kill him as well. So this guy then said, look, we think that we can make a movie from that. But what we need is, at that time, remember, South Africa was serious apartheid. And Rhodesia had become Zimbabwe. We were now in our 4th year as an independent country. So it was my job to then negotiate with the Zimbabwe government to not only support the making of the film, they ended up even putting in money in the making of the film.
Which year was that?
1984.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So when I came with the project, naturally, me having come with the project, me knowing, being in the industry, and at that time I was almost the only black person in the country who knew about filmmaking, was an actual filmmaker, because I'd acted in several movies. I'd been assistant director. And when you're assistant director, as you know, you're not just somebody. Yeah. You know, you are in the thick of things. On a number of projects, I was there as actually the person who was really directing what was happening on set, because the directors were coming from overseas. So when this chance came, they then, in fact, Sir Richard wanted me to play Steve Biko. I was going to play Steve Biko because I was an actor, and our age mate, we were about same kind of age that Steve Biko's story had happened. But then when the Zimbabwe government put in money, serious money into the project, Sir Richard said to me, comrade, you know, now that we got real money, I think it's better we look for actors who will resonate with the people whom we are targeting. We are not making this film for you, for Africans, because you are the people on the receiving end of apartheid. We want to make this film so that people in America, in Europe, can actually watch it. And Sir Richard Attenborough had done the film Gandhi, and he had won Oscars, you know. So he said, look, this opportunity, let's make full use of it. Let's look for someone who is acceptable to Americans and the British. That's when we went searching, and we then found Denzel Washington, who was, at that time, he was young and known. He had just done a series called Sent Elsewhere. But he was perfect for us, you know. So we brought Denzel Washington. He took the role of Steve Biko, and I was one of the organizers of the project. So being in that situation, that's how I got in there, really. So you could say I created the
How was the experience of working with Denzel Washington?
Now, at that time, remember, like I said, he was just...
Oh, he was just
he was
a nobody.
he was a nobody. And, because, say, Richard was big. The big guy here was Sir Richard Attenborough.
Okay.
You know, Sir Richard Attenborough, remember, he had done Gandhi and the Oscars behind him, you know. And so when we looked, we then found Kevin Kline, Afri Woodard, and Denzel Washington. So that film actually made Denzel Washington. Because then he came, the first problem we had was he was American, Denzel Washington. And in American, a black American, they were also not open to the real African issues. In America, Africa is a small problem. So first, he really didn't know who was Steve Biko. So we had to introduce him. Who was Steve Biko? What a hero he was, how he was a hero. And so in him learning about Steve Biko, he himself became conscious of the real issues of discrimination, these racism issues. That's what made him, Denzel Washington, conscious of who he was. And but it was my job for him to learn African mannerisms. I used to spend time. He used to come to my flat, him and his wife, Pauletta, and at that time their boy, their son, who is now a film actor, big film actor. At that time, their son was young, was an infant, you know. And we used to spend time, Denzel, Pauletta, myself, my wife, and would.
I heard that you showed him around Harare, walking in the streets and other stuff.
We'd go to the Shabins because he had to see what life is like for him, how he would act. We not only that, but also because of my experience having been working in insurance, I also knew the people were the judges in Zimbabwe at the time, and would visit these guys and Hari Kanto and Mevin Imaman and so forth, and he became familiar. So it was my job to show him what it was to be an African in Africa, and also a glimpse of what it was, what the whites were like, so that he would also be able to articulate the story of Stephen Bantu Biko.
What does that experience of working on that project taught you about yourself and about life?
I was having, at Independence, I was 30 years old. I am one of the people who were with Bob Marley in Rufaro Stadium. At 30, I was conscious, and we are the people who, when the freedom fighters came back to the country, we are the ones who received them. Like I said, one of the people I recruited in 1974 was Herbert Mahlaba, who in 1980 came back from the struggle, now being one of the key people who were around at that time ZANU-PF. In fact, by the time he passed on, he was governor of the Midlands. You know, that's how powerful the connections that I had were. And so now, where we are at that time, I was aware of all the issues from all sides, and I was able to make my input because of my background as a training manager of an insurance company. And I used to train insurance agents. I used to go with them to market insurance, which made I was able to interact with everybody. I meant everybody, from the teachers who became the ministers in the future to people who were being recruited. In fact, on one of my projects, when Herbert Mahlaba was recruited to go to the struggle, we were actually on a set in Masvingo, where we were doing a film, and then Herbert Mahlaba was there as one of my assistants on the project, and his role was to go and recruit extras from the villages. So we needed men and women, and in the process, that's when he met with the comrades at the time, and he himself got recruited. And I remember the day he left. You know, I was in Bulawayo when he came to my office, and he says, you know, this is something you don't tell anybody, but I have to tell you because you are part of the thing. I'm leaving now. What do you say you're leaving? I'm leaving. I'm going out of the country. And okay. Then you don't know after he'd gone that he says, no, the guy was going to the struggle. That's how he went. And then when he came back from the struggle, we got in touch again. And so now those issues only come to people whom you don't just interact with people who become big like that in the future. That's from nothing, except where you are in a position where you are following the path that God has determined for you.